Picture this. It's Friday night, September 16th, 1984. Families across America are settling to watch what they think will be just another cop show on NBC. What they're about to witness is nothing short of a revolution. Miami Vice didn't just break the rules of television, it completely rewrote them. And at the center of this cultural earthquake was a struggling actor named Don Johnson, who was about to become one of the most iconic figures in television history. Today, I want to take you through this one show and this one performance changed everything we know about television. Before Miami Vice, television looked a certain way. It sounded a certain way, and it told you stories in a certain way. After Miami Vice, none of those rules applied anymore. But let me show you how it happened. To understand the revolution, you need to understand what television was like in 1984. Cop shows back then followed a certain rules, a specific formula. You had your procedural dramas, shows like Hill Street Blues, Magnum PI, The A-Team. They were entertaining, sure, but they all existed within the very strict boundaries of what a network television was supposed to be. The visual style was predictable. Earth tones, practical wardrobes, studio lighting that looked well like studio lighting. Even Hill Street Blues, which was considered groundbreaking at the time, stayed firmly within the visual vocabularies that audiences expected from TVs. The stories wrapped up neatly in 60 minutes. Good guys won, bad guys lost, and everything reset by next week's episode. Network executives loved this formula because it was safe, it was comfortable, it worked. And then Brandon Tartikoff, NBC's programming genius, had an idea. He scrawled two words on a napkin and handed it to the filmmaker Michael Mann. MTV Cops. Those two words would change everything. Mann didn't just want to make another TV show. He wanted to make a 2-hour feature film every single week. He wanted cinema on televisions, and everyone in Hollywood thought he was absolutely crazy. But NBC was desperate enough to let him try. Now, Michael Mann needed the perfect actor. Not just a traditional TV star, but someone with real depth, someone who could carry good morals, someone who could be dangerous and vulnerable at the same time. He found Don Johnson. And here's the thing, Don Johnson in 1984 was completely broke. He was desperate, and he was about to give up on Hollywood completely. Johnson had been grinding away in the industry for 15 years. Failed TV pilots, forgettable roles. He was 34 years old, and his dream was slipping away. Miami Vice was his last shot, and both he and Mann knew it. But something magical happened when Johnson stepped into the role of Detective Sonny Crockett. This wasn't your typical square-jaw TV hero. Crockett was complicated. He was haunted. He'd gone so deep undercover in Miami's drug trade that the line between cop and criminal was constantly blurring. And Johnson brought acting that network television had never seen before. When Crockett was angry, you genuinely felt the anger radiating from the screen. When he was vulnerable, you felt the pain. This was a broken man doing a job that was slowly destroying his soul, and Johnson never let you forget it for a single second. And then there was the look, the pastel Armani suits, the Italian loafers with no socks, and yes, that was Johnson's idea. The perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, the Ray-Ban sunglasses, these weren't just costumes, they were character development. Johnson understood that Crockett had gone so deep into his cover identity that he'd be actually becoming his persona. But it wasn't just Johnson's performance that was revolutionary. Michael Mann had given his photographers one simple directive that changed how television looked forever. Every single frame of Miami Vice looked like a painting. Hot pink, lavender, electric blue. This show was entirely shot in the location of Miami. But Mann's version of Miami didn't exist in reality. It was hyper-real. It was a fever dream of neon shadows and saturated colors. And this wasn't just for style's sake. The visual approach served his storytelling. Those saturated colors and the high contrast lighting, it all reflected the moral universe that Crockett and Tubbs were living in. Everything was heightened. Everything was extreme. Nothing was simple or clear-cut. Before Miami Vice, shows would often use free licensed music. But with Miami Vice, they completely changed the game. They used songs from Phil Collins, Tina Turner, Glenn Frey, Peter Gabriel, U2, and they didn't just play these songs. They built entire episodes around them. By the middle of the first season, Miami Vice wasn't just a hit show. It was a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Don Johnson appeared on every cover of the Time magazine. Not TV Guide, Time magazine. That's how big it was. Armani suits started flying off the racks. Men across America stopped wearing socks with their loafers. The stubble look became a legitimate grooming trend. Fashion designers openly cited that the show was an inspiration for their collection. Johnson himself released a pop album that went platinum because people wanted more of everything for Miami Vice. Miami Vice ran for 5 seasons, ending in 1989, 111 episodes that completely transformed the television landscape. But the real legacy is in what we call prestige television. The Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad, True Detective, Mad Men. These shows with their anti-hero protagonists
Say my name.
Oh, yeah?
The fuck out of here! Why don't you get the fuck out of here? The fuck out of here!
Michael Mann and Don Johnson created in Miami Vice. Don Johnson's Sonny Crockett was the first true television anti-hero. A cop who might be losing his soul to the job, a hero who might not be actually heroic, a man living in moral gray zones, right and wrong. The character type dominates prestige television today, but in 1984, it was completely revolutionary. Think about it this way. Every time you watch a prestige drama show with an anti-hero protagonist, every time you watch television that looks as good as a feature film, you're watching the legacy of Miami Vice. On September 16, 1986, a struggling actor in a white Armani suit, no socks, stubble, walked onto network television and changed everything. Don Johnson and Miami Vice didn't just entertain millions. They showed everyone what the medium of television could actually become when you refuse to play by the old rules. They proved that network TV could be ambitious, that could be cinematic, that could be art. And 40 years later, we're still living in the world of Miami Vice. That's the power of one show, one performance, one vision that refused to accept television's limitations. That's how Don Johnson and Miami Vice changed television forever.